Hey guys, it's Dandi again. I'm recording a couple videos today. I wanted to quickly go over a couple of books. I know that in Master's video I mentioned this book, Slavecraft. I just wanted to go into this book a little bit and give you my opinion. I read the first part of it a little while back and finished it recently. It's just been really busy, so I'm not as fresh on it, but I do want to kind of go over pieces that I really liked, and I do highly recommend this. This is by Guy Baldwin and Patrick Khalifa, Slavecraft. I will also link you below if you are interested in supporting a kinky bookstore. My local bookstore, Wicked Grounds, they do ship to other places. If you have a local kinky bookstore that you are able and willing to support, please do that. I know people are not always able to financially do that, but if you are, please do so. This is not sponsored video for Wicked Grounds. I'm just personal friends with the people, and I really think they do some really amazing things. And so I did want to provide you guys that information in case you're able to do so. Again, I know we're not always able to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this one, and then I'm going to also briefly talk about Sacred Kink. So I'm only on the first couple of chapters about this, but we did go to his class of Dark Odyssey, and it was fantastic. That's not something I can't not say because he's very public that he, did this class and all that. I won't say any stories of anybody that we were there with or anything of that nature, but I will say that this is amazing. The content in this is amazing. Based on the class, it's very similar. It expands upon what was talked about in the class. So a little background, this is Sacred Kink, the Eightfold Paths of BDSM and Beyond by Harrington. And here is the snapshot. There is another different cover of this. This is the most recent one. They do have this one at Wicked Grounds if you are interested in supporting them. And I bought this one from him, and I think it was about $28. And he also signed it for us, and I'm so excited. He was a fantastic presenter. This one is essentially using some of the tenets of shamanism to also describe the 8 paths of shamanism, to also describe kink and how they are actually related. And it's super interesting. Like I said, I'm only on about chapter 3 right now, but he did mention the paths when we were at the class, and we had discussions about them, and it was just fantastic. So I'm just going to read you the paths here to give you a little idea of kind of what this book talks about. Again, I haven't read the entire book, did go to the class with the author, so I have a sort of idea about what this book is about. So he says, for this book, I offer not the list and order for the 8 paths provided by Raven Caldera, but instead 8 paths of BDSM and beyond. A roadmap to Sacred Kink. So this is a book about Sacred Kink. For anybody who's unfamiliar with what that means, probably have to do an entire another video about that. But Sacred Kink is essentially finding ritual or some kind of spiritual connection or meaning to you in your kink. That is also mentioned in the book. What is that? That's my definition of what that is. If you have a different definition, awesome. But it says, the order we will be exploring these various paths to access altered states of consciousness, energy, or Gnostic are, number 1, path of rhythm, use of repetitive body motion, touch, noise, or visual cues. Number 2, ordeal path, the purposeful and intentional pain, suffering, challenging, endurement, or punishing an individual past or through their perceived limitations. Again, I own no rights to any of this. Just wanted to share this with you. Number 3 is the path of flesh, the use of impact, tactile, sensual, sexual, or ecstatic body experiences. The 4th one is the path of ritual. That is the use of repetition of visual, auditory, olfactory, or kinesthetic cues and activities. The path of breath, use of breath techniques, vocabulary, and involuntarily airflow, aka breath play. Path of horse, use of invocation, explication, shape-shifting, and horsing. And then the next one is the path of asceticism, the use of minimalization, purification, restriction, cleansing, or stillness. One of the examples used to explain this was being chastised. And then the path of sacred plants, use of plants, herbal, strong drinks, chemicals, and other external... Sorry guys, little interruption there. Been suffering through this crud from a conference. But sacred plants is the last one. So that gives you a little bit of idea about kind of what this talks about. Again, this talks about Sacred Kink. and how to use all the things that we use in BDSM towards sacred kink. Highly recommend it. As far as Slavecraft goes, there's a lot of different information in this book, even though it's only about 200 pages. I want to just highlight a couple of really quick things. I have written all over my book because I found quite a lot of this exciting and really, really super relatable. This is written by a male slave, gay male slave. So the first essay is the call to submission. And one of the big things that's mentioned in that is that actually know this, slavery requires bravery. And that is one of the biggest things that the beginning of the book talks about. And that it's actually a really bold, brave thing to serve somebody and be a slave. And then discusses the myth of slave training. There's some really good passages about that. And then actually finding your identity as a slave. And that for him and for a lot of people, it's a core identity, the principle of identity. And that it's a huge part of who we are and allows us. And then principles of obedience. The principle of transparency, which speaks about how as a slave, you have to be transparent and honest. That's a part of your service. But that's not necessarily the same for the master. And then humility, principle of humility, about not to be prideful. And there is examples of that sometimes other people are prideful, but for him personally, it doesn't work well for him too. And then there's a section kind of overviewing everything. And then using processing pain. That was a really good chapter on that. I highly recommend this book. I would love to sit down and do a live video discussing some of the passages of this. I'm not feeling super well right now, so I'm not going to go super into this. But I will select 2 passages right now and read them to you and give you my thoughts on them. So let's go find something here. Okay, so this one's from the chapter about being slavery is bravery. And I have 2 little sections here that I highlighted. The first one is there is no shame, and again, I own no rights to this. This is from the book. Just reading you a little section. There is no shame in being fearful. It is only a shame to remain so. And the shame is esteem killing and destroys integrity and self-respect. So, obviously, this is talking about fear of accepting yourself and being in this role of your identity of being a slave. And is basically a statement about the shame is to continue. This is a shame. Oh, hold on. And this shame is an esteem. Maybe I'm not fully understanding this right now. I'm a little off. Yeah, I basically think this is speaking about embracing yourself and your fear. The next part here in the same paragraph that I have underlined is, it is that you must find enough courage within yourself to prevent your fears from paralyzing you to the point where you will be unable to submit enough to actively seek your bliss in your surrender. That is an amazing statement. I think people forget that as a slave, like, I'm doing this because I love this. This isn't just like, oh, it's a job. Like, no, there is bliss in it, and there is in the surrender. That's exactly what this is saying. But that it can be really scary when you're taking these steps. Excuse me, I need a sneeze. When I was on the plane to see Master Hook for the first time, I was reading this book, and I was like, I'm so scared, I'm so terrified, I don't know what's gonna happen. But I kept trying to push myself through that, and like, this is my desire, this is what I want, I'm going for what I want. And it ended up really well for me, and I mean, I'm still struggling and working through things, this is still a very new dynamic. But this is like very, very, I can relate very much to this. So again, it says, it is that you must find enough courage within yourself to prevent your fears from paralyzing you to the point where you'll be unable to submit enough to actively seek bliss in your surrender. That is amazing, and we could definitely talk about that for a while. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that, or on anything mentioned in the book. Let's take a look at maybe one more thing. Okay, here's the last one I'm going to go over. In a functional master-slave relationships, masters must win the submission they desire and enjoy, and this is one way they must do that. before masters receive our absolute obedience, they must demonstrate that they can be trusted to take such an awesome power. This is a very important section. This is part of why you vet. This is why you get to know somebody, and you don't just go and jump into this kind of relationship without spending the time. They must first demonstrate that their appetites for both control and responsibility are in balance. Hell fucking yes. I'm sorry, I'm cursing on YouTube. That is really important. Really, really important. Are you going to go to a doctor that doesn't have their doctorate, doesn't know anything, and is going to like, you know, botch something? Would you go to a surgeon that doesn't know how to do surgery safely? No. Why would you give over yourself to somebody that doesn't balance the power and your safety and the responsibility? This is gold right here. And then until masters do this, the most they can expect from us is a highly conditional slavery with very negotiated submission. This usually is less than satisfactory outcome for both. Somebody recently posted that they're having a hard time with their desires, not lining up with their partner. Sometimes this can be the problem. If somebody is not demonstrating to us that they can take care of everything and they're also thinking of us, it can be really hard to like let go. I'm struggling a little bit with this, not to quite this extent, because the dynamic is so new. But this is very important to talk about. And then it says, this is usually less than satisfactory for both. So basically my summary of this is trust, honesty, and being real, in the master being real and you as a slave being real, equals a fuller submission. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Again, this is Slavecraft. I'm going to provide the Wicked Grounds web store down below. This is not sponsored. I highly recommend checking both of these books out. And if you have any questions below, please feel free to comment. I would love for you to subscribe and also let me know your feelings about this and hit that thumbs up button. I'm doing this YouTube thing to connect with you guys, to be very clear. I love connecting with other kinky people and other slaves and sharing information. This is why I'm on YouTube. Not just because Master also wanted me on YouTube, but, you know, that's part of the reason. But that's my reason for being on YouTube. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that watches and interacts. I really love hearing from you. I am still fighting this crud, so thank you for your patience. Have a great holiday season, and that's all for now. Bye-bye!